What's going on, everybody? We are here finally. All right, Infinity Gauntlet, that's enough. Finally, we are here, guys, for our Avengers Endgame Spoilers review. Again, I proceed with saying this is a spoilers review. So if I see you in the comments saying, "Hey, you spoiled that for me," you can't read. Anyways, guys, this movie, I've seen it twice already. Plan on going to see it a third time. This movie is the best movie that I have ever watched in my entire life. It is. It really is that movie. It really is that movie. This movie does so much in such a long slash short period of time that it's so easy to follow. You follow it from A to Z. You know what's going on. If you've been following the MCU for the last 10 years, first let's talk about that for a second. For a movie to take 10 years to bring this to fruition, it shows you how much hard work and dedication was put into this project, okay? You take 21 movies, I think this is movie 22. You take 21 movies over the last 10 years, starting off with Iron Man in 2008, and you mesh them all together over that 10-year span and period of time. This is something that's going down in the history books as like, it's that deep. And for the movie to be filmed in such a big secrecy, like none of the stuff that we expected that were going to happen happened. Now some stuff was spoiled for some people. Some people let out some spoilers. Some pages got a hold to certain stuff. You know, it is what it is. But just the mindset of what was done here is just magnificent, and I don't think nobody else could ever do this again other than the MCU themselves in movies. So let's get right into it. You guys know we left off in Infinity War with some of our heroes have been being dusted. You know, the likes of Black Panther and Bucky and Wanda, and well, Vision didn't get dust. He just got toe up. All of those guys gone. Star-Lord, Drax, Mantis, Groot. Groot of all people. These people have been dusted. And all that we're left with is our original 6 Avengers. Iron Man, Captain America, Black Widow, Hawkeye, and the Hulk. Rocket Raccoon, Thor. Thor, yeah, Rocket Raccoon's not an original Avenger. You guys know what I'm trying to say. And Nebula. And of course, the new addition, Captain Marvel. And we have my man, Don Cheadle, a.k.a. War Machine. Wasn't that funny when War Machine, Don Cheadle, wrote and said, look here, new girl. If you ain't know, all of us in here about that superhero life. Like, I'm gonna let you know. We all here for that. We here for that. That's what we're here for. We get into the movie. It starts off, first of all, the IMAX screening that I went Thursday night. You guys know I was going Thursday night. The IMAX screening that I went to showed no previews. The movie just started. So I missed Hawkeye's family getting dusted. I didn't see that until I went and saw it for the second time, okay? Start off, we knew it was coming. Hawkeye's on house arrest, as he and Scott Lang were one of the two people that chose to be on house arrest instead of going to jail with everybody else. To make everything right with the Accords or whatever, the Sokovia Accords, that is. And his family just gets dusted on a normal day outside on the farm. Just bam, gone, just dusted. And we go straight into the movie. We leave. We're now in the ship in the Benatar with Nebula and Tony. They're talking about how long they've been floating out in space. They're trying to survive. Tony is looking real bad. He's real malnourished. He hasn't eaten. He hasn't had a lot of oxygen. Oxygen is running out. They're just dead in space. Nothing. And Tony's recording a message that we saw in the trailers. He's recording a message to his Iron Man helmet so it can eventually get back to Pepper somehow, some way. And he's just distraught. He was like, hey, when I drift off, I'm gone. I'm gonna be thinking of you. This is the end. I'm done. And as he, him and Nebula, what was funny, him and Nebula gained some type of bond or relationship. They were playing paper football, and he was teaching how to play paper football, which was freaking hilarious. They were repairing stuff on the ship together to try to help them. They really developed the bond, and I really like that they chose those two characters to do that. You wouldn't have expected those two characters to have some type of bond or relationship. We move forward and we see them sharing food, and Nebula making sure that he's the one that actually eats, and he's just laid out on the ground, and she kind of props him up in the front seat of the Benatar so he can rest better. And as he's resting, this big bright light appears, and it's Captain Marvel, and she brings the ship all the way down back to Earth. And they get Tony out. They get to the Avengers facility. He greets Cap. He greets Pepper and all the rest of the Avengers that are there at the moment. And they take him in, and we go to the next day, and we see Robert Downey Jr. play he plays an amazing scene where he's malnourished, and of course we know CGI, whatever. He's malnourished. He's delirious. He's been out there in space, just floating around. I know he has a lot of health issues going on. A lot. We know this. He has a lot of health issues going on, and he's just out there. And they start the conversation about what they're going to do and what they could possibly do, and Tony just goes off on Cap, like, where were you? You weren't there. We needed you. He rips off the nano housing unit off of his chest and gives it to Cap. He's like, look, you want to go out there, you find Thanos, put this on and hide. And he just passes out. So of course now it's time to let him get his rest so he can revitalize his body. At this moment, there's a conversation that's had about the stones now that everybody's back, and we find out that Thanos has used the stones again. And Nebula lets them know, like, hey, whenever we were talking about this whole plan, he was saying, I'm gonna go to the garden after I've done everything I'll finish. And the garden is a planet where Thanos, apparently his retirement plan, as Rhodey says, oh, nice to know he has a retirement plan. And he goes there, and they just like, look, let's just go. And Captain Marvel's like, yeah, let's do it. I don't see why not. Let's go kill Thanos. And then they were like, we're going in shorthand. They're like, look, it don't matter. Let's go get this dude. Let's go get these stones and reverse everything back. And Captain America, language, he said, yeah, let's go get the son of a bitch. So they pull up on Thanos to the garden. They get in the ship. They get in the Benatar. They fly out, jump through space. They get there. Captain Marvel does recon, and she sees that ain't nobody there but him. And in the comics fashion, he has the whole burlap thing going on. The armor is hanging on hanging up like a scarecrow, just like from the comics. Shout out to Jim Starlin, man. Jim Starlin was actually in this movie. There was a scene where they were having like I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But Jim Starlin was actually in this movie, did a little small cameo. So they pull up on him. They devise this plan of going in to get him. Once we see Thanos, we see all of this has been burned up. His arm, he's hobbling, he can barely move. And we found out that he used the stones to destroy the stones. And all of that power almost took him out. And now he's just out there cooking papayas and whatnot, whatever that type of fruit or whatever he was cooking. He's just out there like living his best life because he did what he wanted to do. And they pull up on him. Captain Marvel, first one comes in. Rex shop, everybody comes in, banging on him. Not Iron Man, but Hulkbuster. What's the man's name? Mark Ruffalo, the Hulk. Bruce Banner's in the Hulkbuster. He comes from up under the floor, pulls him down, and they just interrogating him and Captain America just walks in all cool and whatnot. They're like, where are the stones? He told them what he did with the stones, and Thor just chops his head off. I mean, yeah, they did that. They did that in this movie. That was PG-13. Well, they use a lot of language. So, that happens, and we get a 5-year time jump. 5 years have passed. Everybody's just trying to move on in a sense. Everybody's trying to... Just imagine that for a second. Imagine for a second that this happens in real life. And you're one of the ones that didn't get dusted, and you're just there. You're just there. And everybody that you know is gone. Maybe a few people are still around, but everybody knows it's gone. So now you gotta meet new people. You gotta do new things. You gotta figure out what life is at this point. And it's like it's resting on them, but one person's not resting with is Black Widow. And she has this meetup that she has with some of the heroes. She's meeting up, they have this the same thing that they use to talk to the council, that same technology. We got Rocket, he's off in space somewhere with Nebula. We got Okoye, she's down there in Wakanda. We got Captain Marvel, she's up running around through space trying to get some type of information. And we got Rhodey, he's out and about looking for Barton, or seeing what Barton has been doing, because we know that Barton becomes Ronin in this movie, and we know what Ronin is. Ronin is basically when Barton snaps, and because of the snap, Barton snapped and he went into his persona Ronin, which is something that Natasha probably only knows about. So her thing is like telling Rhodey, like, hey, go find him, let me know where he is. So we move forward into the storyline. She actually catches up with him in Japan. They have a moment, they talk, and he's killing these folks all through Japan. He's going everywhere, taking out anybody that's bad as a, how do I want to put it, almost as like a vengeance type situation. Like, my family's gone, so now I'm finna go stop anything that's bad. I'm gonna stop anything that has anything to do with evil. Hold on, y'all. I knew this was gonna be a long thing. Let me get some water. That's his plan. That's his motive. That's what he wants to do. Natasha gonna talk him down out of it. They come back to Avengers facility. All right. Meanwhile, you guys remember Scott Lang? Yeah, Ant-Man. We left Scott Lang at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp. He went inside the quantum realm, and they were supposed to bring him back out, but didn't, because Hope, Janet, and my man Hank Pym, they got dusted. So a mouse, who was the MVP of the movie, a mouse walks over the little board that's in the front of the van, inside, up in the window, in the windshield, and it starts the process to bring him back. And when he spit back out into a junky, old, dusty storage facility. And he's just looking around like, this ain't the rooftop where I left. What is this? And he immediately grabs some of his things. He's walking around. He's in San Francisco. He comes across this memorial for all these people, and he's slowly looking at the fact that, okay, stuff like this mean people died. And he's making sure that Cassie wasn't one of the people, but on the mural was his name. His name was shown as one of the people that died. He goes back to his old neighborhood where his house is, and lo and behold, in the house is a Cassie Lang that is 5 years older, because we had a 5-year time jump, okay? Now, technically, the timeline is in 2023. Now, that's one thing about the MCU. Their timelines can be a little bit off sometimes, That's neither here nor there. We're talking about this movie, okay? So, he finds her. We get a moment where Cap, he's leading this support group for the people that are left over. And in this, we see one of the Russo brothers who makes a cameo. And we see Jim Starlin, the creator of the Infinity Gauntlet comic. He makes a cameo in this support group as well. We get Cap, who comes back to the Avengers facility to have a conversation with Natasha. They're talking to her. They're both talking about possibly, just kind of time to move on, and let's just live life for what it is. And on the monitor, there's Scott Lang saying, hey, somebody let me in. And they let him in, and he starts breaking down what happened to him, where he's been, and he starts coming up with this possibility of something that could be done, and using the quantum realm to do time travel. So he's like, basically, we're going to need a really big brain to do this. Meanwhile, before this, we meet Professor Hulk, where Banner has now fused himself with the Hulk. So we have the mind of Banner with the body of the Hulk, and it's known as Professor Hulk, which we've seen in the comics before, okay? So they're all trying to figure out what to do. They say, look, we're going to the biggest brain, let's go see Tony. So they go see Tony, and now we see that Tony has a little girl. Her name is Morgan. And we harken back to Infinity War, where Tony and Pepper having a conversation, he said he had a dream that they had a child and they named the child Morgan. And it is some of the best child acting that I've ever seen in movies. This little girl and Robert Downey Jr. look like they built an actual bond on set. Mind you, we knew nothing about this at all whatsoever. Spoilers or nothing. And it's the bond that they had was so beautiful. You're going to understand how deep it is as we go on. But this spoilers review, so we already know what happened. Just so cute. It is the most beautiful thing you ever seen. So Cap, Scott Lang, Natasha, they all pull up at Tony's house. He stays deep off somewhere, off in the woods, in a nice, beautiful log cabin house. And he's basically telling him like, look, I'm not finna help y'all do this. I don't want no parts of this dangerous stuff. I don't want no parts of this, no parts of that. Anything that's gonna mess up what I got here with this child or with Pepper in our life, I ain't got time for it. And they said, well, we gotta go to the next person. That's when they go to the Hook. We'll go to Banner, and they try to come up with something. They try to pull something together in regards to traveling through time, and Banner plays around with it, and they send Scott back in time. But what they were doing was sending time through Scott and not sending Scott through time. So he went into the quantum realm, came back out as a teenager. Went in the quantum realm, came out as a baby. Went in, came out as an old man. And then finally got him back to his normal self. So we see that they had what they were trying to do had some type of purpose, but it just wasn't panning out the way that they wanted to pan out. Meanwhile, we got Tony back at his house, and he's playing around with the possibility of the time travel and how to create it and make it work. And he figures it out. And we get an awesome scene with him and the little girl. And she was like, she was sitting on the steps and he didn't see her. She was like, what are you doing? He was like, shit. And then she was like, why are you? He was like, no, she asked him, why are you up? And then he said, what are you doing up? She said, shit. He was like, whoa, come on now. And man, when I tell you, that was so funny. It was so funny. He gets her back in bed or whatever, and one of them lines that he says is, I love you. She says, I love you 3,000. That was just so beautiful. Tony comes back and tells Pepper, he was like, looks like I get love 3,000. I think you're in the 600 to 900 range. He tells her that he figured it out. He figured out how to do the time travel. He figured out how to possibly bring every back. And Pepper just basically and he was like, you know what? I could just put this in the box and throw it in the bottom lake and have nothing to do with it ever again. And she says, but you wouldn't rest if you did. So we go back to the Avengers facility. We got Scott sitting outside. We see the Benatar land, and we see Nebula get off, and we see Hulk get on with Rocket. They're going off somewhere on an adventure, and Tony pulls up at the Avengers facility, pulls up on Cap. They have a conversation. He's giving Cap a new shield because he remade it, and he's basically like, I figured it out. Let's do it. Let's do this. So this adventure that Hulk and Rocket are going on, they actually go to New Asgard, which was on the cliffs of Norway where Odin died, okay? Or where he went to join the Allfathers or whatever. And we find Thor. And Thor has become fat and bloated and full of beer and alcohol and liquor. And a lot of people had a problem with this in the movie. And here's my thing to them. That is what rock bottom looks like. And if you've never hit rock bottom before, you're not going to relate to that. So that's my words on that. And Thor's just everywhere because he feels like all of this is actually fully his fault. Not the fault of Thanos. Of course, Thanos had a 100% part to play in it, but the fact that he didn't go for the head, the fact that he didn't take Thanos out like he could have, this is riding on him greatly. It's really riding on him greatly. Y'all, hold on now. Hang in there with me. Good old refreshing water. So this is riding on him greatly, okay? And Hulk gives him a conversation like, look, you remember when I was going through it? You helped me through it. Let's do this together. We need your help. We need you. And Rocket kind of coerces him. He's like, we got beer on the ship, and they get him on. And we get back to Avengers facility. and they all get together and they started brainstorming about the stones, because now the plan is to go back in time, get the stones from where they were, do what they gotta do with them, and bring them back. So they have a whole brainstorming session, and they come up with the fact that at certain points in time where the stones are. They know the soul stone is on Vormir, okay? They know that the power stone, they know the Power Stone is basically on Morag back in 2014. And they're looking at the different time periods. They know that the Time Stone, the Tesseract, and the Mind Stone are all in 2012. Okay? They got everything mapped out there. And they know that the Reality Stone is back during the events of Thor the Dark World in 2012 as well. On Asgard, inside of Jane Foster. So as we hear Cap in the trailer, you got your plans, you know your missions. So, Hulk, Cap, Iron Man, and Scott, they go back during the events of Avengers 1. And so they can retrieve the Time Stone, the Time Stone, the Tesseract, and the Mind Stone. Natasha and Barton go to Vormir for the Soul Stone. So yeah, you already know how that goes. We got the Reality Stone. Rocket and Thor go to Asgard for the Reality Stone. And we have the Power Stone, War Machine, and Nebula go to Morag for the Power Stone. So we're in New York. They got their plan together. Banner actually goes to the Sanctum Sanctorum on Bleecker Street. They had a discussion where it was. And there's the Ancient One. And the Ancient One is there. She has a Time Stone. And the Shatari are flying over the Sanctum. And she's actually, killing some of the Shatari. So that's something that was going on that we didn't know was going on during that time. He goes to her. He's basically like, yeah, I need that. And he tries to take her from her. And she does the same thing she did to Stephen Strange. She pushes, gives him that good old astral projection push, and she removes Banner, his astral form, out of the body of the Hulk. And they have a conversation about the souls, about the Time Stone, and why they need it. And she's basically explaining to him, like, look, if you take it from this time, you're going to mess up this timeline. And he gives his explanation of it, and he also lets her know that Strange gave up the stone. Now, one thing she says when he first gets there is basically, Stephen Strange is down around the corner doing some surgery. You about 5 years too early, because we know the Ancient One knows everything up until her death. And if you remember Doctor Strange, she says that that's as far as she got, that she could look into the future. And she eventually gives him the stone. She was like, he's supposed to be one of the best of us, and if he gave it up, then I know something going down. So she gives him the stone. Meanwhile, we got Tony down here with Cap and Scott. They're supposed to be getting the Tesseract and the Mind Stone. Cap does retrieve the Mind Stone. He ends up having to fight himself, and he also gets on the elevator. And I thought they were going to recreate that scene from Winter Soldier, until Cap comes on and says, "Look, I've been told to get the scepter." And Cap whispers into Sitwell's ear and says, "Hail Hydra," and that just set it off there. We see Tony getting the Tesseract, but he fails at that, and Loki picks up the Tesseract and disappears with it, just like the Space Stone does. And this shows us what we're going to see as far as the Loki TV show that's coming to Disney Plus. We're probably going to see the adventures that Loki goes on during this time period, because Loki's still dead. He's not coming back. We see the adventures that he's going on through this time period that he was in back then, where he goes off with the Tesseract. So they come up with Bruce gets the Time Stone, they get the scepter, Scott takes the scepter back, Bruce takes the Mind Stone back to their time, and Tony and Cap realize the only place that the Tesseract is, along with more PEM particles, because they're using PEM particle technology and PEM particles to go through time in the first place. It's 1970 at a military base in New Jersey, and the Tesseract is there, and so are the PEM particles. We get a moment where Cap sees Peggy. We get a moment where Tony is getting the Tesseract, and he runs into his dad, and they have a real good, meaningful conversation. Meanwhile, we got Banner and Natasha on Vormir, and they go and see the Red Skull, of course, or aka the Stone Keeper. I gotta get that Funko Pop. I know everybody's trying to sell it for a whole large amount. Funko, you should just release it regular version, okay? Anyways, they see the Stone Keeper, and Red Skull says, Natasha, daughter of Ivan. and they sit down and have a talk afterwards. And one thing that Natasha says was, "This got to be real because I didn't even know my own father's name." Eventually, these two, the love that they have for each other and the bond that they've created over the years, Natasha ends up sacrificing herself. They actually fought on who was going to sacrifice themselves. Natasha sacrifices herself, and Clint retrieves the Soul Stone. Now over here on planet Morad, we got War Machine and we got Nebula. They're there together, and they go and do the same. They actually see Quill come in during that time, and they knock him out, and he's singing "Come and Get Your Love," just like we saw in the movie. They knock him out. They go get the Power Stone. They're getting ready to go back to their time. And at the moment that they both click their watches to go back, Rhodey goes back, but Nebula doesn't. Because the time period that they're in, the other Nebula is there. Past Nebula is there now. And you got future Nebula. They're in the same time period together, and they're connecting somehow. And we get Thanos, who's seeing what we saw as far as the mission on getting the stones. Now this is past Thanos, not future Thanos, because future Thanos, of course, is dead. And they find her, they capture her, and what ends up happening is they end up taking future Nebula and replacing her with past Nebula, and she's the one that goes back and tricks the whole team. Now what we end up getting now, we got all the stones, they're back. They end up creating a Stark Tech gauntlet that can hold the stones. The Hulk is the one that puts the gauntlet on, and he does the snap. And we know that everybody has come back at this moment because Barton's phone rings, and it's his wife. And everything kind of looks a little bit better, like the ambiance of the world looks like it's whole again. Now, at this moment, the past Nebula, who has taken the place of future Nebula, has used the technology, because Thanos said, "I want to see everything." So that means that they saw what the plan was. They saw the dialogue of the plan, how to execute the plan, and she brings back Thanos and his entire army from back then to now. And the Sanctuary 2 comes through the portal, comes out of the roof, and basically destroys the Avengers facility. And now shit gets real. It gets really real, okay? At this moment, we have everybody's kind of thrown off, up under rubble. We got Rhodey, he's hurt because the War Machine, he still has the braces on his leg that are helping him walk. We got Hulk, they're up on the rubble. They're able to get them out. Rocket was trapped up under something. Rhodey's able to get him out. They get out. We get Barton. He's the one that's right by the gauntlet under the rubble. And because the Sanctuary 2 has already landed, the Outriders, Thanos' little alien people, or as they call them, gray cannon fodder, they are running through the tunnels of the rubble because they sense the stones, like they're trained to sense the stones, and they're running after Barton. And we get a moment where Thanos comes out there, and past Nebula tells him, "Hey, we did it. I got you here. What now?" He's like, "I'm just gonna wait. I'm gonna let them pull up on me." Now, at the same time, we have past Gamora now, who's in the picture, and past Gamora is talking to future Nebula, and future Nebula is saying like, "Hey, you can help me stop him. I know you don't want this to go down. We become sisters in the long run in the future." So we get Thor standing on the edge of the rubble. Up walks Cap and up walks Iron Man. Okay, they're just standing there, and they say, "What is he doing?" He's like, "He's just been sitting there. He ain't did nothing." Now, while they were in Asgard, we'll go back to that, Thor ends up seeing his mother, and she's a witch, so she knows that that's not her Thor. And they have a conversation. Of course, Rocket retrieves the Reality Stone out of Jane Foster. And what Thor does is, at that time, Mjolnir is still in existence during that time. So he brings Mjolnir back with him. He brings the hammer back with him. So now he has Stormbreaker and Mjolnir. So, get the water if it's about to go down. So, it's time to fight. It's time to get at it. He calls Stormbreaker and Mjolnir to him. Now his hair's all grown out and the lightning hits him. Now his beard all braided up. His hair, he's looking like one of the grungy Thors from the comics. Everybody suits up and they immediately go out and it's time to fight. The three of them are fighting Thanos. They're fighting. Thanos gets a little edge. He slings Cap out the way. He slings Thor out the way. Slings Iron Man out the way. Mjolnir leaves Thor's side, and all of a sudden in this battle, we see the hammer. The hammer is on the ground. It starts to move, and it's goddamn Captain America with Mjolnir. He is worthy, which we knew he was worthy, and Thor was looking like, I knew it. Now go back to Age of Ultron. I'm gonna drop something my man Kevin Garland dropped on me. At that time in Age of Ultron, we saw Cap kind of nudge the hammer a little bit, but like my man Kevin says, they were just bullshitting at that point. That they were just BSing. So it wasn't a situation where he really needed to pick up the hammer. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't at that type of situation where he really needed to pick it up. In this moment, it was that time. So he has the hammer and he starts going off with this hammer. And eventually Thanos gets the best of him, knocks him out. He gets up and he hears something on the comms, and it's Falcon. And he said, Cap, you alright? You good? Can you hear me? And he's like, Sam? He's like, on your left. And all of a sudden, all these sling ring portals start opening up everywhere. And the first portal opens up, and here comes my man T'Challa and Shuri and Okoye coming out the portal. All of a sudden, all the portals start opening up from the scenes at the end of Infinity War, and the people have just come back at that time. Doctor Strange comes out, Star-Lord, Spider-Man swings in, Drax, Mantis, Wong, everybody comes back, and it's time to fight. It's time to go down. It's time to get it. Thanos' army comes on out. Everybody's standing there together. Cap gets that hammer, calls that hammer. Man, y'all got me wanting to stop and go see this movie like right now. And if you've made it to this far in this review, I have a prize that I'm going to give away. Yeah, you had to make it this far. All right, I have the Iron Man t-shirt. This is an XL t-shirt. Okay, I'm going to give this away for the first person that comments New Asgard on this video. So this video is going up on Facebook and YouTube. The first person I see that comments New Asgard will win this shirt. I'll get your information. I'll send it out to you. All right. Cap is there. He has the hammer. He calls Mjolnir to him. He says Avengers. And I'm in the move. I said, say that shit, Cap. Say it. Assemble. And it goes down, and we get the best, most grungiest fight in cinematic history that I've ever seen in my life. I'm talking about all of the heroes are fighting, all of Thanos' army is fighting, everybody's fighting together, everybody's back together again, everybody's just going straight ham. Now, here's the thing, the gauntlet is still around, and they're trying to get the gauntlet. Everybody's trying to get the gauntlet. So now they start playing the game of keep away with it. You got Black Panther. He was like, I got it, give it to me. So what they're trying to do is go ahead and get the stones back through time. So he gets it. Spider-Man gets it from him. Captain Marvel gets it. We get this beautiful scene where they're saying how's Captain Marvel gonna get through that army, and all of the women of the MCU pull up. It was just kind of like in Infinity War. I'm like, it's about to go down. Mind you, Pepper Potts shows up in the rescue suit. Her and Tony, they in that ball fighting and going in. Oh my, y'all don't understand how beautiful this was. Like, I've never seen anything like it in my life. I could just go to the movies and watch starting at that moment right there, how hard that went. It was just beautiful, man. It's just beautiful. She's trying to get the gauntlet to the van so they can get it back through time, and Thanos throws his sword through it and it takes it out, and they no longer can use that as a sense of time travel. Okay, so now the stones are there. Thanos gets the gauntlet. but Iron Man comes after him and tries to get the gauntlet back. And what he ends up doing is pulling all of the stones off the gauntlet. And Thanos goes to snap, and then nothing happens. And all of a sudden, we see Tony, and he's sitting there shaking because the power, all that is going through him, and he's only just a human. Yeah, he has all the Iron Man suit, Iron Man tech, all that, but he's just human. And when Thanos snaps, he says, "Aha, I am inevitable." But we see Tony has the stones, and Tony says, "I am Iron Man," and he snaps, and all of Thanos' army. We're talking about the Leviathans, the Shatari Leviathans coming from the original Avengers movie. All of that's going down. Everything is being dusted. Thanos ends up being dusted, and because Tony used the gauntlet, it kills him, and Tony Stark dies. That's when it got real in the movie theater. Because you could just hear people literally crying and sobbing. And it hit me too, man. I was in that thing shedding tears because it was like, you become so connected to these characters and this storyline and these people. And it's like, this happens. And it hits you really bad. And it's like, no, y'all didn't. No, y'all didn't do this. No, y'all didn't do this. And they did. They did. Tony dies from, the force of the gauntlet. We see Peter having a moment just like Tony had with Peter in Infinity War. Pepper comes to him and she's like, "It's okay. It's all right. You can rest now. You can just go." They have a funeral for Tony, and it's just... It is so heartbreaking, man. It is so heartbreaking to see everybody there at the funeral, to know that that's what they're there for. We get a moment with Little Morgan and Happy Hogan, and she was like, "You hungry?" She was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "What do you want?" She was like, "Cheeseburgers." And he gets real choked up, and he's like, "Your dad loved cheeseburgers. I'll get you all the cheeseburgers you want." We move forward. Time goes by. We get a scene. We have Cap. He has Mjolnir. He has all the stones, and they've made a new machine to send him through time. They send him through, and he's supposed to take the stones and drop them off where they came from. Meanwhile, on the other hand, we got Thor, who basically tells Valkyrie that she's going to be the queen of New Asgard, and he's going off with the Guardians. So the possibility we could see Thor in Guardians 3. We also have Clint, who's reunited with his family. Then we get Cap. He goes back in time, and there's a certain amount of time that they bring him back, and Cap doesn't come back, and they're just looking like, huh? What's going on? Bucky looks over, and I think Bucky knew this. I really think he knew this. And there's a man with a bag sitting over on the side of the water, and he says, "Sam, look." Sam looks over. Falcon, I'm talking about, looks over and sees his old man sitting there, and they knew who it was. Time travel is crazy. Don't ask me. And they go talk to him, and basically he's, "You gonna tell me what happened?" He was like, "Nope." And he gives him the shield, and basically now Falcon is now Captain America in the MCU. And yeah, that's our movie. That is our movie, man. I know I've probably left a lot of little stuff out. I know you guys gonna call me out on it. That was the movie for me. That is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. I'm going back to see it again this week. I want to know what you guys think about this movie in the comments below. Whether you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, I appreciate you guys if you've watched this far. Don't forget, this giveaway is going on. First person to comment New Asgard on this video will win this t-shirt. I'll get with you and get your contact information. Share this video out. I know it took me a long time to do it, but I had some traveling going on, all that good stuff. But finally, it was inevitable. It was going to be seen. So, again, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Whether you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, you guys know who we are. We're Fandoms Anonymous. That's FANDOMS We're all over social media. Right here on YouTube where you're watching this. We're on Facebook. Go hit us up on Instagram at Fandoms_Anonymous17. And as I always say, we'll see you guys in another video. And I love you 3000. Thanks for watching.